The sky above Keshari Prime burned red as the orbital defense stations exploded. One by one, Sevrana stood at the observation window of the council chamber, watching her world die in silence. The glass was thick enough to block sound, but she could feel each detonation in her chest like a failing heartbeat. "The Fourth Fleet is gone," said Commander Thresh, his voice hollow. He didn't look up from his console. There was no point. The numbers told the same story they'd been telling for 3 months. The Vryn swarm consumed everything, and nothing could stop them. Sevrana closed her eyes. 4 fleets, thousands of ships, millions of soldiers, all gone. The Vryn didn't fight with weapons or strategy. They simply came in numbers too vast to count. Their biological ships breeding and multiplying faster than anyone could kill them. They ate planets, stripped them to bare rock, then moved to the next system. "What about the others?" she asked quietly. "Have any of the great powers responded to our calls?" Thresh finally looked at her. His face said everything. "The Zenith Imperium sent a message," he said. "They expressed their regret and suggested we consider surrender terms with the swarm. The swarm doesn't negotiate. They know that." Sevrana felt something cold settle in her stomach. The Imperium wasn't coming, neither was the Merchant Confederacy, despite owing the Keshari billions in trade debt. Neither were the hive minds who preached unity and cooperation across all their broadcasts. The truth was simple and brutal. The Keshari had nothing important enough to trade for their lives. "How long?" she asked. 18 hours until the swarm reaches the capital, maybe less. 18 hours. Sevrana looked out at her city. Millions of people down there going about their final day. Some knew the end was coming. Others still hoped for a miracle. She envied them that hope. "There is one option," Thresh said carefully. "The council rejected it before, but given our situation." "Tell me." "The ancient emergency protocols from before the modern galactic order. They include access to frequencies that are now forbidden, dead channels there, called, marked as quarantine zones in every database." Sevrana turned to face him fully. "Why are they forbidden?" "The records don't say. Just that contact with certain regions is prohibited under galactic law. Some of these channels trace back to extinct civilizations, others to places that are, well, the databases just say do not approach. And you think broadcasting on these channels might bring help?" Thresh shrugged, a gesture of helplessness. "I think we're dead either way. But if there's even a chance that something out there can hear us, something the great powers are afraid of." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Sevrana made her decision. The space of a heartbeat. She'd been chosen as elder diplomat because she could make hard choices. This was the hardest yet, but also the easiest. "Do it," she said. "Broadcast on every channel, forbidden or not. If the galaxy won't help us, maybe someone outside it will." Thresh worked quickly, his fingers dancing across holographic controls. Ancient systems came online, systems that hadn't been used in thousands of years. Warning messages flashed across his screen, but he dismissed them all. "Broadcasting now," he said. "All frequencies, maximum power, including the dead channels." The message was simple. A call for help, coordinates, a promise of whatever payment the Keshari could offer, though they both knew they had nothing left to give. The signal pulsed out into space at the speed of light and also through faster channels that bent space and time. Within minutes, it would reach every corner of the galaxy. They waited. 1 hour passed. Then 2. The swarm grew closer, visible now even without sensors. A dark cloud at the edge of the system, blotting out stars. Nothing, Thresh said. The great powers are ignoring us completely now. I think they've written us off, Sevrana nodded slowly. She'd expected as much. The powerful never helped the weak. Unless there was profit in it, then. Thresh sat up straight, his eyes wide. Wait, he said, I'm getting something. Not a message, just an acknowledgement. Someone received our signal. Who? Where from? Thresh's face went pale. That's impossible. What is it? The response came from the Sol system. He looked up at her, and she saw fear in his eyes. That's been marked as quarantined for 3,000 years, the database is saying. Extinct civilization used to live there. Humans they were called, but they're supposed to be dead. Are you certain? The signal came from Sol. There's no mistake. Thresh's hands shook as he pulled up the message. It was brief, just 3 words in perfect galactic standard, received. Hold position. Sevrana felt the hair rise on the back of her neck. Someone was coming, someone. From a dead system, from an extinct species, from a place the entire galaxy agreed should never be contacted. Broadcast a response, she said. Tell them we'll hold as long as we can. Outside the window, the swarm drew closer. But for the first time in months, Sevrana felt something other than despair. She felt curiosity. And perhaps foolishly hope. Whatever was coming from Sol, it would arrive in time to see either their salvation or their extinction. 18 hours would tell the tale. The sky continued to burn, but now Sevrana watched it with different eyes. The galaxy had abandoned them, perhaps. Something beyond the galaxy would not. The sensors went insane 72 hours after the response from Sol. Thresh had been sleeping at his console when the alarms shrieked to life. He jolted awake, eyes unfocused, and for a moment thought the swarm had arrived early, but the readings made no sense. Spatial distortions, he called out. Massive ones. Something's tearing holes in space at the edge of our system. Severina rushed to his side. The war room had become her home in the past 3 days. Sleep came in brief, troubled intervals. Food tasted like dust, but they'd held position just as the message had instructed. The swarm circled their remaining worlds like predators, as if waiting for something, as if they knew something was coming. Show me, Severina demanded. The holographic display flickered to life. 12 points of distorted space appeared at precise intervals around the system's perimeter. Not random, not natural, deliberately placed ships, she asked. I don't know, Thresh admitted. Readings are unlike anything in our databases. Whatever's creating those distortions isn't using conventional faster-than-light drives. It's like they're folding space itself. Distortions collapsed where they had been. 12 ships now hung in the void. Severina's breath caught. The vessels were beautiful and terrible all at once. Sleek hulls of absolute black that seemed to drink in light rather than reflect it. No visible engines. No obvious weapons. They moved with impossible grace, shifting position without thrust or reaction mass. They simply decided to be somewhere else. And they were. Size, Severina asked. Each ship is roughly 800 m long, small by our standards, but the energy readings. Thresh's voice trailed off. Elder diplomat. Each of those ships is generating more power than our entire remaining fleet combined, and I can't identify the source. It's not fusion, not antimatter. It's something else. Have they sent a message? Not yet, they're just watching. The swarm had noticed the new arrivals. The biological mass that had been slowly encircling the Keshari world suddenly shifted. Millions of Wren organisms turned their attention toward the 12 black ships. The swarm had consumed 100 civilizations. They feared nothing, they attacked. A wave of Wren ships launched forward, so many that they blocked out the stars. Each organism was the size of a fighter craft, all teeth and claws and acidic bioweapons. They bred during flight, splitting and multiplying. 1 million became 2 million, became 4 million. The black ships didn't move. Severina wanted to scream at them, fight or run, but do something. The swarm would tear them apart in seconds. Then space itself changed. Severina didn't have words for what she witnessed. The black ships didn't fire weapons. They simply existed, and where they existed, the swarm ceased to be. Wren organisms vanished, not in explosions or fire, but in absolute silence. They were there, and then they weren't, as if they'd been erased from reality itself. What are they doing? Severina whispered. Thresh frantically worked his console. I'm detecting quantum level disruptions. They're not destroying the swarm. They're unmaking it, breaking the bonds that hold matter together. The Wren aren't dying, they're ceasing to have ever existed. 4 million Wren organisms simply stopped being, then 8 million. The black ships moved through the swarm like knives through smoke, and everywhere they passed, the universe forgot the Wren had been there at all. The swarm's hive mind screamed. Every psychic sensitive species in the sector heard it, a sound of pure primal terror. The Wren swarm, which had consumed 100 worlds without pause, encountered something that didn't just kill them, but unmade them, something that fought on a level they couldn't comprehend or resist. The remaining swarm fled. Billions of organisms turned and ran, abandoning the Keshari system entirely. They scattered in every direction, desperate to escape. The black ships didn't pursue. They simply stopped, holding position in perfect formation. Silence fell across the system, silence deeper than anything Severina had ever known. They're hailing us, Thresh said quietly. On screen, the hologram flickered, then resolved into the image of a woman. She appeared, young by most species standards, with dark hair pulled back in a severe style and eyes that seemed to see everything. She wore a uniform of the same light-absorbing black as the ships, with no rank insignia that Severina could identify. I am Commander Yuki Tanaka of the Terran Expeditionary Fleet, the woman said in perfect galactic standard. We received your distress call. Apologies for the delay. We came as quickly as we could. Severina found her voice, though it shook. You're human, but the databases say your species has been extinct for 3,000 years. Yuki's expression remained neutral, but something flickered in her eyes. Amusement perhaps, or sadness. We didn't go extinct, she said. We left. There's a difference. Left to where? Somewhere the great powers couldn't follow, somewhere beyond their reach. Yuki paused, then continued, "We've been watching. We always watch. When we heard your call, we decided to answer. Why?" Severina asked. "We have nothing to offer you. No payment, no resources, nothing." Yuki smiled then, but it was a sad smile. 3,000 years ago, my people were where you are now, dying, calling for help, and someone answered. Even though we had nothing to give, they taught us that the strong have a responsibility to the weak, not to rule them, not to use them, but to help them become strong. She straightened. "Consider your debt paid forward." The swarm Thresh interjected. "They're fleeing, but they'll regroup." "They always do." "No," Yuki said simply. "They won't. We made sure of that." The swarm's hive mind experienced something it's never known before. True fear, true death, not just loss, but erasure. They'll avoid this region of space for generations and will make certain the message spreads to every swarm cluster. Severana felt tears on her face. Her people were saved, impossibly. Incredibly, they were saved. "Thank you," she whispered. Yuki's expression grew serious. "Don't thank me yet. We saved you from the swarm, but there are worse threats in this galaxy. And they're going to notice what we've done here." The celebration lasted 3 days. Across all Keshari worlds, people danced. In the streets, they sang songs of deliverance. They built monuments to the mysterious humans who had appeared from nowhere and saved them from extinction. Children drew pictures of the black ships. Adults debated what the humans wanted, what they looked like, why they had helped. Severana didn't celebrate. She stood in the council chamber with Commander Yuki Tanaka, watching the joy below, and felt a growing dread in her stomach. "You said there are worse threats." Severana said, "Tell me what you meant." Yuki stood with her hands behind her back, gazing out at the city. She'd come down to the surface alone, leaving her ships in orbit. Trust or confidence, Severana couldn't. "Which? What do you know about the galactic order?" Yuki asked. "The great powers maintain peace and stability. The Zenith Imperium, the Merchant Confederacy, the hive minds, they've kept the galaxy civilized for 10,000 years. Civilized, Yuki repeated, tasting the word. "Is that what they call it?" She turned to face Severana. "Tell me, why didn't they help you against the swarm?" "We had nothing to trade. No resources they wanted, no strategic value." "Exactly, and doesn't that strike you as odd? They claim to maintain order, but they let entire civilizations die if there's no profit in saving them." Yuki walked closer. "The truth is more sinister. The great powers don't maintain order. They maintain control. They keep younger species weak. Deliberately. Limited technology, limited growth, limited potential." Severana felt cold. "That's a serious accusation." "It's the truth. 3,000 years ago, humanity started asking questions. Why did our technology always fail at certain thresholds? Why did the great powers discourage certain lines of research? Why were we never allowed to explore beyond specific boundaries?" Yuki's voice grew harder. "We found the answers. The galaxy isn't free, it's a farm. And we're all livestock being kept docile and controllable. How did you escape?" "We fought, we died. We rebuilt, we fought again. Eventually we broke free and fled beyond the galactic rim to a place where space itself is different, where we could grow without their Interference. Yuki met Sevrana's eyes. We evolved not just our technology, but our entire understanding of reality. That's why our ships seem impossible. We're not playing by their rules anymore. And now you've come back. We never stopped watching. We've been monitoring the galaxy from outside, waiting for the right moment. When we heard your call, we knew that time had come. Sevrana walked to the window, looking down at her celebrating people. You said, they'll notice the great powers. They already have. As if summoned by her words, Thresh burst into the chamber. Elder diplomat. We have incoming ships, multiple fleets. They're demanding we respond. Immediately. Who? Sevrana asked, though she already knew. The Zenith Imperium, 300 warships just appeared at the system's edge. There, broadcasting on all frequencies. Yuki smiled without humor. Right on schedule. The holographic display activated. Without anyone touching it, an alien face appeared, all sharp angles and cold eyes. High Executor Zorn of the Zenith Imperium. His species had ruled quarter of the galaxy for 6,000 years. Keshari Collective, Zorn said, his voice dripping with authority. You have violated quarantine protocols by making contact with a restricted species. You have used forbidden communication channels. These are crimes against galactic stability. We were dying, Severina said quietly. You refuse to help us. Your survival or extinction is not relevant to galactic law. What matters is order. What matters is that the rules we have established over millennia are maintained. Zarn's eyes shifted, focusing on someone off-screen. On Yuki, Severina realized. Human, you were warned to stay in your quarantine zone. Your species was marked extinct to prevent exactly this situation. We were marked extinct because you were afraid of us, Yuki said calmly. You've spent 3,000 years hoping we died out. Their surprise. You will surrender all technology you have shared with the Keshari. You will return to your isolation. The Keshari will submit to Imperium administration to ensure they are properly re-educated about galactic law. Or, Yuki asked, or we will ensure compliance through force. Severina felt her world tilting. They'd been saved from the swarm only to be conquered by the Imperium. From one threat to another, they traded certain death for certain slavery. I'll give you a counter-offer, Yuki said, her voice still perfectly calm. You turn your fleet around and leave. The Keshari remain free. We remain. As long as they want us, and everyone goes home alive. Zarn laughed a harsh sound. You have 12 ships. I have 300. Your arrogance is 473. Yuki interrupted. You have 473 ships. I counted, and you're currently being joined by elements of the Merchant Confederacy. Looks like 512 total now. They move fast when their control is threatened. Then you understand you cannot win. No, Yuki said softly, you don't understand. You've been controlling species for so long that you've forgotten what it's like to face someone who isn't afraid of you, someone who has grown beyond your little farm. She turned to Sevrana, elder diplomat. The choice is yours. Stand with us and they'll make you an example. Submit to them and you'll be safe, controlled, limited and kept weak forever, but safe I won't choose for you. Sevrana looked at her people celebrating below. She thought about her children, her grandchildren. What kind of galaxy did she want them to grow up in? one where they were free but endangered, or one where they were safe but chained. It wasn't really a choice at all. We stand with humanity, Sevrana said firmly. We choose freedom. Saren's face darkened. Then you choose death, all Imperium ships prepare to fire. Let this system be an example to any others who think they can defy galactic law. Keshari. Population centers first, another voice added. The merchant confederacies representative, make it quick but visible. The galaxy needs to see what happens to those who break the rules. Yuki touched a device on her wrist. All Terran ships weapons free. Show them what humanity has become. The screen went dark. Through the window, Sevrana saw the stars begin to change. The battle was starting. She prayed they'd made the right choice. She prayed the mysterious humans could actually do what they claimed. Most of all, she prayed her people would survive to see tomorrow. The Imperium fleet moved with practiced precision. 500 ships arranged themselves in a formation perfected over 6,000 years of warfare. Their weapons charged enough firepower to crack planets. The Keshari sensors screamed warnings. Every military analyst in the system calculated the same result: total annihilation in under 3 minutes. Thresh pulled up the tactical display. With shaking hands, elder diplomat, their first volley will target our population centers. They're not trying to occupy, they're trying to exterminate. Sevrana watched the 12 black human ships. They hung in space between the Keshari worlds and the Imperium fleet, impossibly small against the Armada arrayed against them. 12 against 500. It was insanity. What are they waiting for? Thresh whispered. Yuki's voice came through the communication channel, calm as still water. We're broadcasting this battle on every frequency in the galaxy, every civilization, every species, everyone who's ever wondered what happened to humanity. They're all watching now. We want them to see. See what? Sevrana asked. The truth. High Executor Zarn's face reappeared on the displays. Last chance, human. Surrender or be destroyed. I'll give you the same chance, Yuki replied. Leave now and you live. Zarn's laugh echoed across open channels. Fire. The Imperium fleet opened fire. As one, thousands of energy weapons, missiles and kinetic rounds, enough destruction to shatter moons. The weapons converged on the 12 human ships. A storm of annihilation that lit up every sensor in the system. The human ships didn't dodge. They didn't raise shields. They simply existed in the space where the weapons struck, and the weapons stopped existing. Sevrana blinked, unable to process what she'd seen. The massive volley simply vanished. Not deflected, not absorbed, just gone. Erased from reality as completely as the Viren swarm had been. Impossible, Thresh breathed. Energy readings, they're manipulating. Probability itself, they're making the weapons have never been fired. Yuki's voice remained steady. Your turn is over. Hours now. The 12 human ships moved. They didn't accelerate. Acceleration implied transition. Movement through space. These ships simply stopped being in one location and started being in another. One moment they were in defensive formation. The next they were scattered throughout the Imperium fleet. What happened next would be analyzed by military historians for generations. The humans didn't fight a conventional battle. They fought on a level most species couldn't comprehend. One Imperium ship found itself frozen in time. Its crew stood like statues, aware but unable to move. A second stretched into subjective years. Another ship was simply teleported into the heart of its system's sun. There and then not there in an instant. A third phased out of normal reality entirely, existing in some parallel dimension, where its crew could see and hear everything but interact with nothing. 10 ships, 20, 50. The human vessels moved through the Imperium fleet like death itself. And everywhere they went, ships simply stopped being threats, not destroyed. Changed, transformed into warnings. They're not killing them, Severin A. realized. They could, but they're not. We're making a point, Yuki said, and Severin A realized the channel had been open the whole time. We could erase you, all of you. Every ship, every world, every trace you've ever existed. We have that power now, but we're not like you. We don't rule through fear, we protect through strength. One human ship positioned itself in front of the Imperium flagship, High Executor Zarn's ship, the mightiest vessel in the fleet. The human ship was a tenth its size. Final chance, Yuki said. Retreat, or we show you what happened to the last species that tried to control humanity. Zarn's face appeared on the displays, and for the first time Severin A saw fear in his eyes. Real primal terror. He was finally understanding what his species had been keeping quarantined for 3,000 years. Not a threat that could be destroyed, an evolution that had transcended all ships. Zarn said, his voice cracking. Fall back, full retreat. The Imperium fleet fled. 500 warships, the pride of a galactic empire, turned and ran from 12 human vessels. The Merchant Confederacy ships were already gone, having reached the same conclusion minutes earlier. Silence fell across the battlefield. Not the silence of death, but the silence of shock. Yuki's image appeared in the council chamber, still perfectly calm. We're broadcasting a message to every civilization in the galaxy. You should hear it. The holographic display shifted. Yuki's face appeared. But this time she was addressing not the Keshari but everyone, everywhere. My name is Commander Yuki Tanaka. I am human. You were told my species was extinct. You were lied to. 3,000 years ago, we escaped the control of the great powers. We fled beyond the galactic rim. And we evolved. We became something they couldn't control or stop. She paused. The powers that rule this galaxy have kept you weak deliberately. They limit your technology. They restrict your growth. They make you believe you need them. You don't. Images played across the display. Proof. Documents stolen from Imperium databases. Communications between the great powers discussing how to keep younger species controlled. Plans to limit development, to create artificial obstacles to ensure that no species could ever grow strong enough to challenge their rule. We're not here to conquer you, Yuki continued. We're not here to rule you. We're here to show you that freedom is possible, that you can grow beyond what they've allowed you to be. The galaxy has been a farm for 10,000 years. Today, we're opening the gates. The message ended across the galaxy on 1,000 worlds. Billions of beings sat in stunned silence. Then the silence broke. Rebellions erupted on subjugated worlds. Within hours, species that had accepted Imperium rule for millennia suddenly questioned why the Merchant Confederacy's trade Networks fractured as planets demanded. Fair terms instead of extractive contracts. The hive minds found their telepathic control challenged by minds that had seen the truth. The galaxy would never be the same. In the council chamber, Severina turned to Yuki. What happens now? Now Yuki smiled. Now the hard part begins. Freedom is harder than slavery. It requires responsibility, choice, growth. Many will fail. Some will fall into chaos, but some will thrive. Some will become something amazing. She looked out at the celebrating Keshari below. We'll stay as long as you need us. We'll teach what we can, then we'll move on to the next call for help. The great powers won't give up, Severina warned. No, Yuki agreed, they won't. But they're afraid now, and fear makes them cautious. We've bought the galaxy time to change. She extended her hand. Welcome to the first day of freedom, elder diplomat. Try not to waste it. Severina took her hand and felt the weight of possibility settle on her shoulders. 6 months after the battle, Severina stood in the same council chamber and marveled at how much had changed. The galaxy was unrecognizable. The old order had collapsed like a building with rotten foundations. The Zenith Imperium had retreated to its core worlds, its fleet scattered, its authority shattered. The merchant confederacy was fracturing into 100 smaller trade organizations as species demanded fair terms. The hive minds had gone silent, their telepathic networks disrupted by minds that no longer accepted their control. Thousands of civilizations were free for the first time in recorded history. Some thrived. The Keshari had formed alliances with 6 nearby species, sharing technology and resources freely. Trade flourished without the Confederacy's extractive contracts. Innovation exploded as species pursued research the great powers had forbidden. But some fell into chaos. 3 systems had descended into civil war as different factions fought over how to use their newfound freedom. 2 more had been invaded by aggressive neighbors no longer held in check by Imperium authority. Freedom, Severina had learned, was not the same as safety. The humans had stayed true to their word. They offered help to anyone who asked, sharing knowledge, protecting the weak, teaching species how to defend themselves. But they never ruled, never demanded loyalty, never established colonies or extracted tribute. They simply helped, then moved on to the next crisis. They're leaving today, Thresh said, walking into the chamber. He'd aged visibly in the past months, though his eyes were brighter than before. He was part of the new Keshari Defense Force, trained by human advisors in technologies that would have seemed like magic a year ago. I know, Severina replied. She'd been expecting this. The humans had stayed longer than she'd hoped, but she'd always known they would leave eventually. A familiar spatial distortion appeared in orbit. Yuki's ship preparing to depart. Severina had requested one final meeting and Yuki had agreed. Now the human commander materialized in the council chamber, her form flickering into existence. Through some technology Severina still didn't fully understand. Elder diplomat, Yuki said with a slight bow, you wanted to talk. I wanted to thank you and to ask questions I've been afraid to ask. I'll answer what I can. Severina gestured to the display, showing galactic news. Rebellions, conflicts, change. Was this what you wanted? The galaxy is burning. The galaxy was already burning, Yuki said gently. You just couldn't see the flames. The great powers kept everything controlled, orderly, but that order was built on oppression, on keeping billions of beings from reaching their potential. She walked to the window. Yes, there's chaos now, but there's also possibility. Real possibility, not the illusion of it. Some species are suffering more now than before. I know. And we help where we can, but we can't save everyone. That's the hardest lesson humanity learned. We can't be everywhere. We can't solve every problem. All we can do is give people the tools to save themselves. Severana joined her at the window below Keshari. Children played in parks that had been battlefields 6 months ago. They played games involving the black ships, pretending to be human defenders. They didn't understand what they'd been saved from, not really. They just knew they were free. Why did you really come back? Severana asked. After 3,000 years, why? Answer. Our call. Yuki was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was softer than Severana had ever heard it. When humanity was dying, when we were where you were, we sent out a call for help, and someone answered. Not humans, an older species, one that had already transcended and moved beyond this galaxy. They saved us even though we had nothing to offer, even though helping us put them at risk. What happened to them? They're gone now. Moved on to something beyond even our understanding. But before they left, they told us something. They said that true power isn't dominion over others. It's the ability to help them become powerful themselves. They said that the strong have a responsibility not to rule the weak, but to ensure there are no weak, only the strong helping each other grow stronger. Yuki turned to face Severana fully. We were slaves once. We were controlled, limited, kept weak. But someone helped us break free. They taught us that the cycle of oppression only ends when someone chooses to end it, when someone with power decides to use it not for control, but for liberation. Smiled, she smiled. Now it's our turn. We pay the debt forward. We answer the calls for help. We show others that freedom is possible. Will you come back if we need you? Always. That's our promise to any species that calls for help. We will answer. It might not be immediate. It might not be us specifically, but someone will come. Yuki pulled a small device from her uniform and handed it to Severana. These are coordinates. Not to Earth, not to our actual location, but to a place where messages can reach us. If you need help, call. We'll hear you. Severana took the device, carefully feeling its weight. It was heavier than it should be, as if it carried more than just metal and circuits. What if other species ask for these coordinates? Give them freely. The more species that know they can call for help, the better. We want the galaxy to know we're watching, that the strong don't have to be predators, that help exists for those who need it. A chime sounded. Yuki's ship was ready to depart. One more question, Severana said quickly. Where will you go now? There are 47 active distress calls across the galaxy. Some from species fleeing the chaos. Some from worlds suffering under new tyrants trying to fill the power vacuum. Some from civilizations that have been calling for help for decades but were ignored because they had no value to the great powers. Yuki's expression hardened with determination. We'll answer them all. one by one, and will keep answering, until every species knows that they're not alone, that help is possible, that freedom is achievable. She stepped back, her form beginning to shimmer. Take care of your people, elder diplomat. Show the galaxy what freedom can accomplish. Be an example for others. We will, Sevrana. Promise. Thank you for everything. Yuki smiled one last time. Thank whoever answered our call 3,000 years ago. We're just passing it forward. She vanished. Sevrana stood alone in the council chamber, watching through the window as the 12 black ships accelerated away from Kashari space. They didn't use conventional drives. They simply folded space, and in an instant they were gone. The galaxy felt quieter without them. But it was a different kind of quiet than before, not the silence of fear or oppression, not the silence of species too afraid to speak. It was the silence of possibility, of potential, of a galaxy holding its breath before something new began. Severna pulled up the galactic news feeds. The reports were chaotic, contradictory, overwhelming, but beneath the chaos she saw patterns, species forming new alliances based on cooperation rather than domination, technologies being shared freely, civilizations helping each other rebuild. It wouldn't be easy. Many would fail. Many would suffer. But for the first time in 10,000 years, the galaxy had a chance to be something other than a farm, a chance to grow, to evolve, to become something better. On her desk, the device Yuki had given her sat like a promise, coordinates to reach humanity if the darkness came. Again, Severna picked it up and locked it in a secure vault, not hidden but protected, available if needed. She hoped they'd never need to use it, but knowing it existed, knowing someone was watching, knowing that help would come if they called, that changed everything. Outside, Kashari children continued to play. They drew pictures of black ships and made up stories about the mysterious humans who had saved them. They didn't know they were living in a transformed galaxy. They just knew the monsters were gone, and the future was bright. Severna smiled. Let them dream. Let them grow up in a galaxy where freedom was possible, where the strong helped the weak, where calling for aid actually brought help instead of exploitation. Somewhere out there, 12 black ships were answering another call. Another species was being saved. Another civilization was learning that they weren't alone. The galaxy had been loud with lies for 10,000 years. Now it fell silent with truth. And in that silence, something new began to grow.